Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's a pleasure. And as Ben said, 3 for the price of 2. I mean, what else could you wish for? So from theme parks to flow. A little while back, I had the opportunity to be at DevOpsDays London and to talk about probably the topic I love the most, which is systems. I used theme parks. So I'm going to repeat a question that I asked at that event. Quick raise of hands if you ever been to a theme park. No. Yay! So the result is similar and I suppose unsurprising, which is good. So I'm going to ask you to please imagine yourself entering a theme park. When you enter a theme park, you're entering an experience, right? There is people walking around, there is rides, there is maybe popcorn, candy that you can smell floats on the air, and there is loads of rides, a map that you want to go to. But under all of this is a mesh of complexity, right? There is things that work together, dependencies, that all work in order to provide that experience for you. These dependencies we often don't think about. All of this to say that theme parks are complex systems, and so are organizations. When you go into an organization, there will be dependencies, teams, platforms in plural, layers of abstraction, etc. We don't necessarily think about this, and we tend to go sometimes naively thinking we can fix part of the problem of the system without necessarily thinking about the repercussion or the other things that form part of the overall picture. Because of this, I often use this, which is a slide card, to talk to people about how using the whole lens is important. I use lens as an analogy because the lens has 2 functions. You zoom out and you zoom in. And this applies to whether you're shaping platforms, whether you're working on transformation, on products or services. You basically zoom out so that you can see that bigger picture, right? So in a theme park, that will be the rights and the dependencies. In your organization, that will be the functions, the teams, and the platforms, and the dependencies. Some of them old, some of them new. They need to coexist, and they need to work well together in order to provide the value that they're set to provide, right? You then zoom in, and when you zoom in, you can see the detail. So if I continue to use the analogy, I will say that when you zoom in into that theme park, you're seeing rides. There is more than one. And as I said, some of them will have all tracks. Some of them will be enabled by AI. They're still within the same ecosystem, and they still have shared dependencies. So each ride is a system in itself. Each platform is a system in itself. Oops. This is why I encourage and always talk about treating platforms as systems of value. This removes the conversation from talking about platforms as a technical stack, or having a big, long definition of what a platform is, or having meetings, as you often have, where everyone thinks of the word platform as something different. So platform engineering, to me, bridges that gap between platforms and the actual experience that the users or consumers of the platform get. It turns what is a capability into services of value, or that is the intent. So I said it's 3 of us on the stage. Me, I'm Helen. I work on end-to-end operating models and internal platforms mainly.
My name is Tom Slenders. I love bringing organizational design into practice, and I do that at ASML at the moment.
My name is Andrea, and I've been working in change management in different, especially technical situations the last couple of years. And last year, I was doing it together with Tom at ASML, and we were leading the rollout of platform engineering and team topologies in a very big Dutch company. And that was actually pretty difficult, I must say. And I don't only speak about the technical part. So there was a lot of knowledge, but it was there was a couple of global knowledge about the whole system, and there was so much fragmented knowledge. So there were a lot of islands of people who understood their area very well and had a lot of knowledge, but they did not know always about the other areas. And I mention this because speaking to many others, we were wondering what can we learn from others. We noticed this happens in many organizations. So there aren't a lot of people who have both the zoom in, the fragmented knowledge, and the global knowledge. So it actually takes some effort to bring these perspectives together, next to the really difficult technical part. And another thing that we saw is that we saw a lot of people who really put a lot of effort in and were really doing great stuff. For example, on the local system optimization. But it's different people generally who are doing the global system optimization. And sometimes they talk to each other, sometimes they don't. So it's quite difficult to get these different perspectives, all the great knowledge, all the great intention, into the same team, so that you can actually optimize both, so that you don't just make your local optimization that while you think this is really what we need to do, you might unwillingly hurt your neighbor or make life for others more difficult. So that was quite difficult. And another one is that we saw there were two very big categories of difficulty or challenge. That's what the technical focus, the technical part of platform engineering is quite tricky, but also the non-technical focus. And so we saw that this is actually really a change that is not only the technical tools, but there's also quite some the change part involved. And that's what we are focusing a bit more on today. And we saw that unlike when I very naively first thought, it's not only for developers. We have quite some very different roles involved in the move to platform engineering. And they have these different focuses and knowledge. So for example, there's a transformation lead, the change manager, developer, product manager, senior leadership, architect. And for some of them, like imagine you meet two developers meeting in the morning at the coffee machine. They might work in different areas, but if they have a conversation because the machine is a bit slow, it's a queue, they will understand each other. They will maybe say, oh, this is what we did, this is what you can try, no problem. What if it's the same developer, he's meeting the senior manager? Do you think they have the same kind of quick conversation? It's a bit more difficult, right? And this is the problems that we sometimes also encountered when you have these really different perspectives and these really different areas of expertise and areas what they are used to focus on working together. And this is what makes it also quite interesting to make a good transformation for platform engineering, especially for platform engineering as a very technical topic.
Smooth a bit.
Yes, so what we were looking for is what can we do that we are, since we're in this ride together, how can we make it really cool for everyone, not only for the platform engineers. And we noticed there are three kind of areas, topics that the three of us always discussed. When you are in this platform engineering journey, where do we actually start? It's quite easy to know in a perfect world, this is how the landscape would look like, but we have limited capacity, so where do we start? And then how do we start, and also in which order?
And this is questions we actually saw in many places. It's not just at ASML, but Jelen saw it in different places. It's quite common that when you want to work towards platform engineering, where do you start? And so this is what we noticed. And when we were preparing this talk, we actually said we want to bring back some of the tools that we use in our day-to-day work and give them back to the community. But then we realized, wait a second, but we can actually bring a lot more together, because we couldn't find a nice resource where you have a whole bunch of these different tools together, or at least there are some, but they typically focus on the technical things. So we tried to do something like that. So introducing, with a drum roll, what we call the Platform Engineering Toolkit. So we, as part of our prep for this talk, we actually created a small web application. And we're basically saying, hey, this is not focusing too much on the technical side of things, but other things out there, and especially like practices that we've seen work in practice and try to gather them in a central place, which we think is useful, because if you're starting out with these types of things, where do you start? How do you do these types of things? And so we tried organizing them a little bit. So we say, hey, start with the what and the why if you're reading at the beginning, if you don't know what it's all about. But then where do you start? This typically goes like, you typically want to zoom out first. What is your bigger landscape? But then if you want to start, how do you start and how do you keep progressing it? And at the same time, we have something on the top. We actually want this to be community-driven. So we've added a couple things in there that are already well-known. Some of our own tools are in there, but we actually want others to contribute to this as well, because preferably we want this to be a community-driven thing. We do this in our spare time. This is not our daily job, to be honest, to create something like this, but we hope this actually can work as a nice source for these types of things, finding some of the practices that have worked in practice in your organization, and that you can more easily share with others and learn from them. So what does that actually look like? So this is the where to start page. And then, for example, we had a couple of these cards. So Wortley mapping is something that a lot of the people in the platform engineering space typically know about. Maybe you haven't. It's definitely interesting stuff to look at. So we add like these types of cards. But for example, the platform ops is something that Helen uses in her day-to-day work right now. And then so we add that as well. And then we try to highlight this as like a tool, because quite commonly it's like just an article, but we also have like a canvas and these kind of things, like you actually can bring into practice, but also who's it for? Because we've seen especially that it's quite diverse typically what this is for. And what we'll actually do now is we'll just highlight a couple of the tools that we at least already added in there that we bring into practice. But we try to not focus on the developer. It's definitely also relevant for developers. I was actually talking to a friend of mine recently, and I said, hey, we're working on this thing. He is a developer on a platform, and he said, oh, I actually need that as well. But we typically focus on the less tech stuff because there's a lot already out there. We'll show you a couple of the things that we at least already contributed, so you already have something to also bring back in your practice.
So to get started, I want to talk with you about something maybe about sleep. Always good. I don't know how you slept last night. We had mixed responses this morning. But sleep is quite a good example, we thought, because a couple of years ago, I don't know how it was for you, but when I started my studying and I started to learn a bit more about personal performance, I read a self-help book, as you do. And there was a lot of good advice. One of the things it said actually is that I should really reduce my sleep to have more time for important things in the day, get more productive. Yes, it was written in the book. I didn't try it very long, thankfully. But actually, this is not a unique opinion. Maybe if you are a little bit older like me, then there were a lot of things people who were really proud, entrepreneurs who are saying that they just need 4 hours of sleep a night. Thomas Edison was one of the first who said that, but also current entrepreneurs might be really proud of it. So the thing is why I'm happy I didn't follow this advice, and I hope you don't. It's pretty dangerous, sleep deprivation. So this is from a recent UK government blog. So you might think that you optimize if you do sleep less, but actually you don't optimize. The whole system is just poorer off. Your performance really drops, your judgment drops, your memory drops. So it's all kinds of things that you really don't want. And so what we were thinking is, what sleep is for humans are platforms for organizations. Because sometimes at the same time I looked it up, it's actually funny that there was also a thing going on around IT, is that platforms, maybe you heard that, platforms are not core business. I see some of you nodding. So platforms is really the thing you should just get out of your sight. Do it as efficient, say cheap as possible, and not worry about it. And they are also that technical, right? They are not, yeah. So we noticed that also, I also understand that if you are working inside a big company, not everybody is highly technical, and that a platform can feel quite scary. So also when you might find it a bit intimidating, and then it can also be a very human thing to say, oh, these platforms, they are none of my business because I deliver this, and this is really core business. But that's why we think this is quite relevant for platform engineering, because the risk of not giving attention and love to our platform is just so serious, very serious, to the risk of not sleeping enough. So the risk is amongst each other. I know you guys know about of it. Your costs might rise, and you need to invest more and more into platforms if you don't take good care of them. You're risking security and regulatory exposure. So if you just read the news, I mean, you see all the breaches. You can often see amongst the lines that platforms or platform services have something to do with it, or cloud services. And also in a recent MIT report, they were saying that it's quite difficult for many companies to do a good AI use because the platforms are not in the shape that you want them to be. So we thought that that's actually, while people might find platforms not all that fancy sometimes, or a bit intimidating because they don't understand them, they really should understand them, because it's so harmful if you don't understand them. And that's why we were putting down some resources with the best knowledge we have, and that we included a nice position paper that hopefully can help you build the case of platform engineering in case it's some of the challenges you have. So we were looking at what are good resources to make especially the non-technical part understandable, so that it's easier for all of us to understand this important problem or challenge that we have inside a company. And we added this inside the toolkit. So again, we are really happy if you have other good sources and cases. We are really happy for your contributions if you have some cool ones. So now to the next section of our website.
Thank you. So, as Tom mentioned before, the site is organized in a way that we thought would help people. What and why, where to start, what about if I'm already started, but maybe I'm a bit stuck. If we move on to the where to start, I have added a canvas that I generally use. And I just wanted to briefly explain what this canvas is about. Because you end up having conversations with different stakeholders, it helps to move away from technical conversation. If you want to engage and you want platform engineering to resonate to your service management team, to your business analyst in the business, to any other person that may not be necessarily in the platform, you need to obviously adapt your language and how you talk about it. And you need to have all of these people in the room. So I often talk about platform services rather than the platform engineering as a starting point, just to discover and to understand what's out there. So what type of services we provide? Where would they sit on these different layers? These layers, I change them depending. But as a general rule, I tend to always end up with these four. So for example, I may be talking to the identity and secrets team. They may not class themselves as a platform. They may not even class identity as a platform in that organization. So I will point that out, or we will point it out together, because it's a workshop, right? Automation, maybe services platform. Obviously, all of this is made up. An AI new platform that maybe some people don't know about and they're a bit frustrated. It helps people talk about all of these services. All of these that I'm saying, I'm obviously oversimplifying it. So in the toolkit, you will find a link to a website that explains what I'm saying in a much better way. What do I mean by the canvas? How do you use it? And then you can download the canvas, so you can use it in your own whiteboard. And you can also download a guide that gives you some insight into what worked for me. So who do you want in that workshop? What do you need to consider? And what questions you may ask to get the conversation going.
So the last one is actually a bit more about starting and progressing, zooming into platforms. So this is a canvas, again, to make it very practical, something we can use. But this one is about, we call it the Platform Enablement Service Canvas for lack of a better name, to be honest. But what it's all about is when you look at a platform or a group of a certain platforms, quite often people just look at the technical side of things. And with this, we try to get away from that because there's quite a few components that you typically want to have in place for people to start consuming a platform in a proper way. And this tries to cover several of the elements that you want to have in place for a platform, potentially. Depends on the situation you're in, though. But quite often what we've seen, if you talk to a platform team, is that they actually don't know a lot of these things. Did we make a conscious decision to actually have this in place or not? And so what you can just do with the teams, at least that's what we do, is that, for example, if you documentation and knowledge base, do you actually have a knowledge base in place? How do you provide that back to your end users of your platform? Have you fully embedded it in your portal maybe or not? Have that discussion about it. How do you provide that? And then the clicker doesn't work for some reason. So then I think the next one actually, oh, there we go. Collaboration and innovation support. What we've seen in practice, especially when you have a platform, it's very powerful to have a community close to it, because that's where people really start to learn from each other. So do you support that community of practice that you, for example, have? We've seen that it's quite powerful, actually, to have a platform team to contribute mostly to the community of practice, because they benefit from it the most. It's the others that somehow just want to take a bit more from it, but if you boost it from the platform, then typically you can really make it a lively thing. So that's something you can focus on. Do you want to decide to do that, yes or no? Or maybe if you go a bit more to the technical side of things, maybe you're still doing manual compliance checks on your platform, but actually you want to start automating them, because then it's really part of a very good service from your platform back to your end users. So the way we've set up this canvas is basically, it doesn't touch the core tech and the core services of your platform, but all those little things on top, starting from the more technical things on the bottom to the less technical things on the top. And by mapping that out with a platform team, you make it very tangible. What do we currently have? Or do we say, hey, this is part of another platform team, as part of a bigger platform group, for example, but where are our gaps? Or where can we start improving? It helps in that conversation, and that's what we've seen. It's how this works in practice, and it's quite powerful. And especially if you're like a product manager of a platform, for example, this is something very handy to have lying around, because it just helps you structure a couple of things and talk with people. But also as a change manager, for example, if you're looking at a platform engineering change within a larger organization, how do you make that tangible as change manager? And that's exactly where this also can come in handy. It's like these types of people typically, although to be honest, can be broader used obviously as well. I think actually we're running a bit ahead of schedule, which was a bit unexpected, but
that's fine. I can make something up.
No. Well, we'll at least show you this one then. So what we want to do is, we want to get people involved. We really want this to be community driven. We're doing this in our spare time, but we love to get more contributions. And we want actually to go from the people in the back of the cart who are slightly less happy to really go to everyone being happy in that ride. So yeah, you can scan that. I'm already seeing some phones out there. That's good. It's just platformengineeringtoolkit.com. It was available apparently, so we just took it because we thought, why not? So have a look. We will be around the upcoming days, so if you just want to talk to us, please do, because we actually love to talk about these things, and hopefully you find something interesting in there. And if you have something interesting yourself, feel free to reach out to us during the conference or after. There's some contact information there as well. Yeah. So hopefully we can bring back something to the community and we make this more interesting for everyone.
I just wanted to add, I think, I need to iterate on my timing, don't I? I think I talked a bit too fast. It's because I have a whole conversation, I think, in my head, and I think I said all of this, and I haven't really. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of reiterate what Tom is saying, but said everything that is there now is either proven practices, things we know work well, canvases, tools that we use ourselves and that we're happy to share. We don't work in the same organization. Each of us works in a separate organization. So it's not a matter of like we got together over coffee and we're sharing like everything from our work. No. And that is the beauty of it, because it's diverse. I have enjoyed. It's been exhausting, but I think you will agree, I have enjoyed having conversations with Andrea, Tom, debating, challenging ourselves in the tools, going, no, that don't work. Tom explaining why it does work, or Andrea, etc. And then we have published these with love for everyone. Yes, it's not complete, as in we want more to be added, and this is where we need you to tell us, okay, I have proven this, and I know it works, or I have this canvas that I am happy to share. And we just want to keep it as much as possible organized, so that people that is new can go in and don't be overwhelmed by the amount of information that is there. We talk about cognitive load, right? But then we do it ourselves continuously. So let's just stop doing that and just enjoy the ride. Is there anything?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.